Part 52. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 511. I heard that a large number of masters from the Blood Demon sect have arrived in the Sea of Immortality. Of course I have heard about such a big thing. I heard from some big guys before that the masters of the Blood Demon sect came to the Immortal Sea just to find Xuanhuan. The Blood Demon sect seems to have discovered something and is still fighting people on Cloud Island. Gotta fight. I've heard about it too. It seems that the last time the Holy Master was born, the center of the vision of heaven and earth was in the Sea of Immortality. The Blood Demon sect believes it is related to Xuanhuan. Is Xuanhuan also in the Sea of Immortality? Tisk tisk, whoever can find Xuanhuan will make a fortune, and maybe even become a god. Xuanhuan was eating and listening. After this meal, Xuanhuan also heard a lot of news about the Immortal Sea in the restaurant. There were two most important news. One was related to the Wanshen section. After the immortal city of the Wanshen sect was destroyed, two elders rushed to. When they arrived at the Sea of Immortality, they finally stabilized the situation of the Wanshen sect, and at the same time, they hunted down the old monster Tianhua, causing a lot of commotion. Apart from the 10,000 Gods sect, the most popular topic in the Immortal Sea right now is oneself. With the arrival of the masters of the Blood Demon sect, rumors about Xuanhuan in the Immortal Sea began to spread, and many diners in the restaurant were talking about it. Xuanhuan ate calmly on the surface, but secretly palpitating in his heart. You can't stay in the Sea of Immortality any longer, it's too lively. After you get the boundary pearl, you have to leave immediately, because besides the Blood Demon sect, there are definitely a large number of people like Lu Yazan who want to kill themselves. The God of Fortune boy has returned. He carefully explored the inside and outside of Lu Yazan's house and found nothing unusual, nor any traps or special arrangements. This also made Xuanhuan feel a little relieved. Seeing that it was almost done, Xuanhuan asked the waiter to pay. "Sir, just 80 gold coins." The waiter came over with a smile. Xuanhuan put down 80 gold coins, turned around, left the restaurant, and came to the street outside. Maybe the bosses who open restaurants and serve summoners in the world of god-killing insects are the real big winners in the world of god-killing insects. Every summoner comes here and wants to get the boundary pearl, the divine spring, and all kinds of things. They use scarce resources and spend gold coins as copper coins, and these business people run businesses here. As long as they do it well, huge profits of dozens or hundreds of times are everywhere. If they accumulate over time, it will be terrible. Others want to come to the god-killing insect realm to dig gold mines, but these people are selling shovels in the god-killing insect realm. This is the business with the least risk and guaranteed profit. If it weren't for his special situation, Xuanhuan would have wanted to come here and become a lifestyle player. After walking less than half a mile from the restaurant, he came to an inn. The houses in this inn were all small courtyards suitable for summoners. Xuanhuan first asked for a small courtyard, and placed the tortoise-shell 5 elements upside-down Bagua sword formation in the courtyard. After finishing the arrangement, he threw Lu Yushuan in the courtyard, walked out of the courtyard gate, and soared into the sky. After hiding his figure in the air, Xuanhuan arrived in the sky above Lu Yazan's small courtyard on Sea Snake Island in a moment. Falling from the air, he took out Lu Yushuan's key to open the forbidden area in the yard. Xuanhuan easily entered the yard without touching the forbidden area in the yard. Lu Yazan is cunning and cunning. This courtyard is one of his 3 cunning rabbit caves. He hid 2 world beads here, but he did the opposite. The entire courtyard only has ordinary guard restrictions and no formations to protect it. Others look, everyone thinks that this is the residence of ordinary summoners. Even if there is no one here often, others will not think that there is anything good here. It will be the hiding place of an 8-sun realm master on Sea Serpent Island, let alone risk. There is no possibility of war or enmity with the owner here, so it is safe. It's like a guy in rags wearing a $5 snakeskin bag carrying millions while shopping. It doesn't attract anyone's jealousy, but it's the safest thing to do. Opening the door from the outer courtyard and entering the empty living room, Xiaopinggan glanced at the structure of the living room and suddenly jumped onto the beam. At the point where a pillar in the living room contacted the roof beam, Xiaopinggan fumbled for a while and gently lifted the beam. A wooden wedge used for mortise and tenon structure was opened. Inside the beam, under the wooden wedge, there was a groove with 2 beads wrapped in cotton cloth. When the cotton cloth was opened, 2 boundary beads appeared on Xiaopinggan's body. In front of you. Of those 2 beads, one was golden and had 4 small characters on it, "Stone Ox clears the way." The other one is black, solemn, and deep, and there seems to be a drop of tears flowing inside. There are 3 golden words tears in the boundary bead. Lu Yizhan was cunning and well informed, but he didn't know what the stone Neukideo world pearl could summon after being fused, and what spells it could perform. Because in the circle of summoners, in addition to some world beads that have been exposed and are well known to the public, there are many rare world beads. What can be summoned after fusion is an undisclosed secret and has great value. Even if the fusion is successful, most people will not easily tell others what secret summoning method they can get after fusing the world beads. But Lu Yushuan knew what the world bead, the fallen tablet, could summon. According to him, after successfully fusing the world bead, it could summon a mysterious and powerful stone tablet. Once that stone tablet was summoned, it could make the opponent the summoned warriors and soldiers formed and other battles ceased, losing their will to fight. This technique is naturally of great use, but the spiritual crystals that can be matched with this world bead are too rare. There are not many summoners who have fused this world bead in the past. If there is no spiritual crystal, it is difficult to fuse this world bead. The success rate of the bead is less than 1,000th, and the mortality rate of failed fusion is close to 40%, so even if he has the world bead in his hand, Lu Yizhan does not dare to fuse it. Xiaopinggan put away the 2 boundary beads, inserted the wooden wedge back into place, flew down the beam, walked out of the house and outside the courtyard, jumped into the air, and disappeared into the sky in the blink of an eye. Xiaopinggan hid his figure and spun around in a circle. He found that no one was following or paying attention to him, and then Shi Shiren returned to the courtyard of his inn. Lu Yizhan was still locked in a cage and didn't know anything. He was just a dull gourd. He didn't even know whether Xiaopinggan had gone out. Xiaopinggan ignored Lu Yizhan, went to the training room in the small courtyard, took out the boundary beads and fused them. The first boundary bead that Xiaopinggan took out was the stone ox clearing the way. In a moment, Xiaopinggan's entire body was wrapped in a cocoon of light. Opening his eyes, he saw a majestic man sitting on the throne in the main hall of Qin State. It was King Xuanhuan. In the main hall, there was also a veteran with a beard wearing armor and making an impassioned speech. Xiaopinggan himself, wearing the general's armor, stood in front of the general's team. Who was he? Xiaopinggan was slightly confused at this time. He was not fully aware of his role at the moment, so he remained silent and observed the situation in the hall. "Your Majesty, our Qin army wants to capture Shu. The most difficult thing is not to fight with soldiers, but the road to Shu. It is difficult and dangerous, and it is difficult for vehicles and horses to move. In many places, one man can guard the pass, and 10,000 people cannot open it. It is difficult for our army to reach Shu. If our army digs a road into Shu from the outside, it will be very costly and time-consuming. It will also be blocked and harassed by the Shu kingdom, which will make the Shu army prepared. If the 2 armies confront each other for a long time on the Shu road, they will be hostile to us. The army is extremely disadvantageous." The voice of the veteran general who made the speech was loud and passionate, and could be heard in the entire hall. "My lords, although it is difficult to sign a decree, don't you have a comprehensive strategy to destroy Shu? The 2 countries of Bashu and Bashu are fighting. This is a good opportunity. King Xuanhuan sat on the throne and looked around the audience and asked. All the ministers in the hall were silent, and each of them looked embarrassed, or avoided King Xuanhuan's eyes. Everyone knows that the road to Shu is difficult. Now that Qin wants to destroy Shu, who has the ability to open the road to Shu easily? This kind of thing cannot be done with words. Your Majesty, I think the destruction of Shu can be postponed and discussed later. A man standing at the head of the civil service came out. This man wore the crown of the Prime Minister, had two beautiful mustaches on his lips, was dignified and eloquent. The top priority for Qin state at this moment is to first resolve the threat from South Korea to the east of Qin state. South Korea actually dares to send troops to harass and attack Qin state. This is really abominable and must not be tolerated. Qin state can only defeat South Korea, seize Sichuan County, and open up the Yiyang Road. The key to dominating the world. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 512. As soon as the man opened his mouth, Xiaoping'an knew that the man must be Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi entered Qin and was appreciated by King Xuanhuan. Now he is the Prime Minister. Zhang Yi has been urging Qin to attack Han and coerce the Emperor of Zhou to order the princes. Zhang Yi scolded Fang Qiu in the main hall and talked eloquently. Ba and Shu are just small countries. Now the two countries are fighting. It seems that we, Qin, can get an advantage, but the road to Shu is extremely difficult. If we don't build a road to Shu, we, Qin, it is difficult for the army to enter Shu, but as soon as the road to Shu is dug, Bashu and Bashu will immediately know that our Qin state wants to annex Shu. Their disputes will be stopped immediately, and they will inevitably unite to fight against Qin. In this way, our Qin state the country spent a lot of effort, but not only failed to annex Shu, but instead united Shu, and at the same time allowed South Korea to continue attacking our Qin border, giving Qin an opportunity. Isn't this what a wise man would do? Many ministers in the main hall nodded secretly and whispered to each other after hearing Zhang Yi's words. King Xuanhuan was also a little moved, but he was still a little hesitant. King Xuanhuan had long wanted to conquer Bashu and destroy this small country in the southwest hinterland of Qin, consolidate Qin's national power, and expand Qin's territory. Bashu was fighting in front of him. Everyone seeks help from Qin. If Qin just sits back and watches, wouldn't it be a missed opportunity? King Xuanhuan's eyes moved around among the crowd, and finally fell on Xiaoping'an's face. Seeing that Xiaoping'an had been silent in the hall, his breath was calm, and he couldn't help but feel moved in his heart. General Sima, you once annexed the land of Bashu from a small army. Now in the palace, do you have any good ideas? General Sima? He was indeed Sima's fault. Note. Xiaoping'an said secretly in his heart. Seeing everyone's eyes focused on him, he took 2 steps and saluted King Xuanhuan. Your Majesty, I disagree with what the Prime Minister just said. Oh, King Xuanhuan suddenly became energetic. General, please elaborate. If our Qin state wants to dominate, horizontal and vertical strategies are only auxiliary. The fundamentals are that the country is rich and the people are strong. The territory must be vast, the warehouses are sufficient, the country has spare strength, and the soldiers are well equipped. This is the basis for domination. If Qin state can annex Shu at present, the land has greatly increased our national strength, and our Qin state has less internal troubles. This will allow our Qin state to take an advantage in wars with other countries and establish a place for self-strengthening. And if we attack South Korea, threatening the Emperor Zhou, not only failed to make any profit, but also gained a bad name. If Zhou and Han were in danger, they would definitely unite with Qi and Zhao would not just sit idly by. At this moment, if Qin takes advantage of Han, that is the next best thing to do. The road to Shu is difficult to travel, so how can my army enter Shu? King Xuanhuan asked. Your Majesty, I have a plan that can break the difficulties of Shu. Destroying Shu can be as easy as turning the palm of your hand. Oh, what's the plan? This strategy is a military secret and should not be announced here. Xiaoping'an smiled slightly. Leave this matter to me, Your Majesty. I will let the king of Shu himself repair the Shu road for our Qin army to attack Shu. At that time, our army of Qin can easily march straight into Shu, destroy Shu, and let Shu be in the hands of the king and become the territory of our Qin. King Qin Hui was overjoyed and almost stood up from the throne. General, what you said is true. Other ministers also looked at Xiaoping'an with suspicion. Are you kidding me? Do you think the king of Shu is a fool? We want to attack the kingdom of Shu and let the king of Shu build the Shu road for us? Xiaoping'an said confidently, the king and ministers will wait and see. If I can't do it, I am willing to come and see you. Although King Qin Hui favored Zhang Yi, he was also very opinionated. When he heard Xiaoping'an said that he had already planned a strategy to pacify Shu, in line with his wishes, King Qin Hui made a direct decision on the strategic choice between attacking Han and attacking Shu. Chose the latter. Finally, Xiaoping'an and Zhang Yi were entrusted with important tasks by King Qin Hui. King Qin Hui put them in charge of conquering Shu. Entrusting Zhang Yi, who was opposed to the attack on Shu, with the important task of attacking Shu. This was also the sophistication of King Qin Hui. After the next dynasty, Qin's state machine has slowly started to rotate. As soon as Xiaoping'an walked out of the Qin palace, a voice came from behind, General Sima, please stay. Xiaoping'an turned around and saw Zhang Yi walking up with a smile. Zhang Yi is a political strategist, and political strategists are very thick-skinned. They live by their tongues and did not take what happened in the court to heart. In fact, Zhang Yi also saw that the one who really wanted to conquer Shu was King Qin Hui. It is estimated that King Qin Hui had thought about the temptation of expanding his own territory and allowing Qin to annex Shu for more than a day, which is why King Qin Hui so firmly supported Sima Qiu. As a strategist, Zhang Yi naturally would not displease King Qin Hui and wanted to go against the grain, so as soon as he came to court, he immediately approached Sima Qiu to discuss the attack on Shu. Prime Minister, Xiaoping'an bowed slightly towards Zhang Yi who was striding towards him. What General Sima just said is indeed reasonable. General, please rest assured. Since Your Majesty supports the General's suggestion, I naturally support it, but the difficulty of the Shu road is the biggest obstacle for our Qin army to attack Shu. The General just said that there is a way to do it. Let the king of Shu clear the way for our Qin army, you can take it seriously. Seriously, Xiaoping'an nodded. Oh, what a good idea, do I know? The Prime Minister will attack Shu with me, of course you can know. Xiaoping'an turned his head and looked around. There was no one around, so he leaned into Zhang Yi's ear and whispered a few words. Zhang Yi's expression was first one of astonishment, then excitement, and finally admiration. If this skill is achieved, it will indeed not be difficult for our Qin army to attack Shu. We also hope that the Prime Minister will give us your full support. Zhang Yi smiled and said, Your Majesty and the General are giving me military merit. How can I push it beyond my reach? In this battle, we have to rely more on General Sima. The army needs logistics, supplies, food, and fodder. Please rest assured, General, I will personally supervise you. The two looked at each other and smiled, each having a tacit understanding in their hearts. As soon as he returned to the general's mansion, Xiaoping'an immediately ordered his men to find the best stonemasons and goldsmiths in Qin. Half a month later, Xiaoping'an took the opportunity to inspect the border and led a team of people to the pass bordering Qin and Shu to personally inspect the Shu road. A group of Qin's best craftsmen were in Xiaoping'an's team. On the surface, Xiaoping'an was inspecting the Shu road, but in fact, he arranged for the craftsmen he brought to start working quietly. Xiaoping'an set aside a special place in the military camp for those craftsmen to work, and put a cow in it. None of the soldiers are allowed to approach. After the craftsmen tinkered in the barracks for more than 10 days every day, on this day, their men came to report that what Xiaopingan asked the craftsman to make had been completed. Xiaopingan went to check it out in person. When we arrived at the designated camp area, we saw the stonemasons carving a lifelike stone cow. The goldsmiths took out several large piles of golden cow dung. Yes, it was cow dung. Cow dung made of gold, just like real cow dung. Because the cow dung was so heavy, it was difficult for one person to pick it up. It took two people to pick it up easily. Xiaopingan checked it, nodded, called a few craftsmen over, pointed at the stone cow and said, "Where the cow's butt is, there should be a little golden cow dung, more like." Several craftsmen immediately admired, "The general has a sharp vision," but we didn't think carefully. The goldsmith and the stonemason discussed it and started working immediately. A few hours later, the butt of the stone was indeed stained with a little golden cow dung and gold powder. Seeing that the things were ready, Xiaopingan immediately arranged manpower to send Shi Niu out of the military camp and to the designated location tonight. A few days later, a group of defenders at the Shu Pass went to inspect the Shu Road outside the pass as usual early in the morning. Walking on the misty Shu Road, waiting for the sun to come out, when these Shu troops saw the stone cow on the Shu Road in the pass, the patrolling Shu troops were shocked. When the Shu army ran up to the stone cow and took a look, they heard a loud bang. It was amazing. There were actually a few large pieces of golden cow dung on the ground behind the butt of the stone. They were genuine. When I saw the cow dung, it looked like gold. There is still some golden cow dung on the buttocks of the stone cow. It seems that the cow dung is quite fresh. An officer of the Shu army took a bite of the cow dung and found that the cow dung was actually gold. He immediately asked the people around him to protect the stone cow and then informed his superiors. I heard that the Shu army had discovered a stone cow that could pull golden cow dung on the Shu Road. The pass general who heard the news immediately rushed to confirm it. The Shu army did not dare to hide such a big thing, so they immediately reported it level by level. Soon, it was reported to the king of Shu, and the piles of golden cow shit were also handed over. The palace of the king of Shu. The king of Shu looked at the golden cow dung brought up by the people below, and bit it with his teeth. He immediately became excited. There was only one thought in the king of Shu's head. This is auspiciousness from heaven. God has chosen him to give a piece of cow dung. A stone cow that could only pull gold was given to him. He wanted to bring that stone cow to the palace. He would reach the peak of his life by picking up cow dung in the palace every day. It's just that the stone ox is big and heavy. If you want to transport the stone ox from the Shu Road to the palace, you need to rebuild the Shu Road. The Shu Road must at least be built enough for carriages and horses. This is a waste of people and money. There is gold cow dung, is this a big deal? The king of Shu looked at the golden cow dung still stained with his saliva, and immediately waved his hand and ordered to open the Shu Road. The stone cow that can only pull gold must be transported to the palace for me. Who dares to fight with me? Cow dung, whose head I chopped off. The stone cow belongs to me, but those cow excrements belong to me, ha 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 ha. Half a year later, the road to Shu was repaired. The people of Shu worded money, and there were many complaints. The king of Shu held a grand ceremony and welcomed the stone cow with gold cow dung on its butt into the palace. Every day, he also let people release various green grass, bean cakes and other things were in front of the stone cow, eagerly waiting for the stone cow to pull down the hot cow dung for him to pick up. The king of Shu even prepared a warehouse containing golden cow dung, and he was just waiting to reach the top of his life by picking up cow dung. However, the stone cow never pooped out cow excrement, but the Qin army followed the Shu Road and easily drove the army to the palace of Shu. Xiaopingan was speechless when he saw the fat-headed king of Shu for the first time. The stupidity of the ruler was almost vividly displayed in the king of Shu. Looking at the Qin dynasty soldiers standing in front of him, the king of Shu shouted, his face pale, I didn't expect, I was actually harmed by a few pieces of cow dung. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 513. As the world bead was shattered, and after re-experienced a small amount of 28 points of divine power, Xiaoping'an's consciousness entered the temple of the secret mandala out of great curiosity, wanting to see what he had just merged with. What kind of magic does this world bead bring? A bronze relief of a stone bull clearing the way is in the temple. On the bronze relief, it is the story of the stone ox clearing the way. On the relief, the stone ox of the Qin state is shining brightly, tied by ropes, moving forward on the difficult road to Shu. The one pulling the rope are countless soldiers and civilians of Shu who are clearing the way. Among them, there are 5 people who are particularly strong. They are dragging giant rollers, holding giant shovels and other objects in front of the stone ox to clear the way. The 5 people who are clearing the way are also glorious. Yi is the summoning position. Unexpectedly, this world bead actually provides 2 summoning spells, Stone Cow Dung Gold, 5 Ding clears the way, and the relief completely shows the story. Xiaoping'an immersed his mind into the summoning position. He first looked at the Wu Ding who opened the way, and immediately understood that the 5 opening people could summon together as long as they spent 50 points of summoning position. After summoning Wu Ding can build roads and clear the way for summoners. This is a labor auxiliary occupation, which is somewhat rare, but for summoners, there are not many places where it can be used. Xiaoping'an once again immersed his mind into the stone cow summoning position to feel the mystery of this technique. In just an instant, Xiaoping'an was shocked. He felt his head buzzing, and his mind was shaken, and his consciousness suddenly changed from the secret mandala. Withdrew from it. In the secret room, Xiaoping'an's eyes opened, with an unbelievable look of shock in his eyes. This stone cow that can be summoned, could it be, that it could really be made of gold? Xiaoping'an murmured to himself. The information he just sensed was so shocking that Xiaoping'an became a little suspicious. Just try and you will find out. Summoning a stone cow consumes an astonishing amount of divine power, requiring 360 points of divine power at a time. However, in order to test whether the summoned stone cow had such abilities, Xiaoping'an directly summoned the stone cow. With a wave of his hand, a lifelike stone cow walked out of the mist beside Xiaoping'an and came to the secret room. This stone cow has a strong physique, is very vivid, and has an incomparable air of dignity. Although its body looks like a stone, its movements are exactly the same as those of a real cow, and its 2 eyes are even more shining with gold. The summoned stone cow came to Xiaoping'an and rubbed its head against Xiaoping'an, very intimately. Xiaoping'an looked at the underground secret room. There were not many metal things in the underground secret room. There were only 2 copper metal lampstands, and there was a fluorite on each lampstand. Xiaoping'an pointed to the copper lampstand, and the summoned stone cow came to the lampstand and ate the 2 copper lampstands as if eating grass, leaving the fluorite behind. After waiting for a long time, the stone cow gave a soft moo, raised its tail, exposed its red ass like a steel furnace, and pulled out a pile of cow dung. The cow dung fell to the ground, still smelling hot, but it solidified in the blink of an eye, and it looked like a golden pile of cow dung. Xiaoping'an waved his hand and brought the stone cow back into the secret mandala, and then summoned a ball of water, which fell on the hot cow dung on the ground. With a chi sound, a piece of steam rose up, and the hot cow dung cooled down completely. Xiaoping'an picked up the piece of cow dung and took a look. The cow dung is not big in size. Once you hold it, it looks like a piece of cow dung art created by a boring sculptor. Damn it, but it is really gold. The weight of the cow dung in my hand is the same as the 2 copper lampstands put together. But judging from the density, feel and color, it is no longer copper, but real gold. Of course Xiaopinggan would not bite it with his mouth. He just used 2 words and exerted slight force with his fingers. His fingers were like knives, just like iron scissors, and he cut the piece of cow dung into 2 pieces from the middle. If you look at the incision, you can see that the inside is also golden yellow and is real gold. Holy shit! This is what those alchemists in ancient times only dreamed of. The so-called alchemy is to turn base metals into precious metal gold. Under the technological conditions of ancient times, alchemy was destined to be a luxury. Even under modern technological conditions, different metals can be bombarded into gold using atomic bombardment, but the cost of atomic bombardment is far higher than it can. The value of the little bit of gold produced, the yard bombardment, only proved scientifically and experimentally the possibility of turning base metals into precious metals. But that stone cow can turn the metal it eats into its stomach directly into gold and pull it out. 360 points of divine power are summoned once. After the sacred cow eats enough metal, it can pull out a bubble of gold cow dung of the same weight. What it just pulled out is not a bubble, but only a small part. The stone cow pulled out a bubble of gold. The weight of cow dung is about 20 or 30 kilograms. Ha ha ha, I will never be short of money again. Xiaopinggan laughed with a wonderful expression on his face. Although he is not short of money now, mastering the summoning technique of a stone cow that can pull golden cow dung is still of great practical significance to the summoner. For the summoner, if his divine power is gone, he can recover it every month. Once he recovers and masters the summoning technique, he can summon the stone cow and pull out gold immediately. This summoning spell is a real benefit to the summoner. As long as you master this technique, the summoner will say goodbye to poverty forever. It's just that this world bead may be relatively rare. Even if you get the world bead, without the divine mind crystal, the chance of successful fusion is not high. At this moment, the upper limit of Xiaopinggan's secret mandala's divine power has become 7,788 points, which is still an auspicious number, 88. As expected, it has been increased again and again. After being happy alone for a while, Xiaopinggan looked at the time. It had only been more than 2 hours since he entered the secret room for seclusion. It was still early and it was not dark outside. He could continue to fuse the remaining world beads. Taking out the remaining boundary bead, the words Tearfall Monument on the boundary bead were particularly conspicuous. Xiaopinggan also put away the smile on his face, and his expression became more respectful. This boundary bead, said it belongs to Yang Hu, a famous minister of the Western Jin dynasty. Xiaopinggan also respected Yang Hu with all his heart. He was a man who really had great charisma and was admired and respected by his enemies. When Yang Hu died, the soldiers guarding the border of Wu state all shed tears for him. The people of Jin state built temples and erected monuments in his honor. Every year, when priests and people saw his monument, they also shed tears, so this is the origin of the Tears Monument. Blood dripped and beads fell, and in the blink of an eye, Xiaopinggan was surrounded by a black cocoon of light. Happy National Day! There will be another update tonight. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 514. Lu Yuxuan stayed in Hibulongdong's cage in a daze for almost a whole night. From the voices coming from outside, he knew that he was in an inn on Sea Snake Island. From the changes in temperature difference coming from outside, he knew that he had spent the night outside, but other than that, he knew nothing. The next day, at dawn, Lu Yuzhan felt his cage being lifted up again. After a while, it took off into the air. After flying like this for almost an hour, Lu Yuzhan heard another noise coming from outside the cage. Lazy vocals. Okay, I'm going to take off the cloth cover. You close your eyes first and slowly get used to it. If you become a blind monkey, don't blame me for not warning you. Lu Yuqian closed his eyes and found that he could speak again. After a long time, he carefully covered his eyes with his hands, slowly opened his eyes, and a ray of light came out, gradually adapting to the changes outside. Looking again at this time, Sea Snake Island has disappeared into an unknown place, not even a shadow is left. Below is the boundless immortal sea, and above the head is the blue sky. Xiaoping'an has left Sea Snake Island and is flying in the air. From the direction of Xiaoping'an's flight, judging from the above, Xiaoping'an was flying in the direction of Wolong Island at this moment. There is an invisible oval shield outside Xiaoping'an, which just blocks the strong wind in the air. Otherwise, Lu Yushuan, a monkey in a cage, would be blown to pieces in half an hour in the sky. There is one left. As for what Xiaoping'an did on Sea Snake Island yesterday, he had no idea. Master, have you taken those 2 world beads? Lu Yizhan was extremely depressed, but he could only ask with a smile on his face. Take it, you've told the truth. Xiaoping'an looked at Lu Yishuan, and with a move of his hand, he took out 2 bananas and handed them to the cage. Here, I'll reward you with these 2 bananas. Let's exchange them, those 2 world beads of yours. Look at how generous I am. These 2 bananas are the fruits reserved for guests in the hotel. I have reserved them just for you. Thank you, master, for the reward. Lu Yizhan's heart was bleeding, but he still looked like he was crying with gratitude. He took the 2 bananas and immediately ate them without hesitation. They looked very delicious. While Xiaoping'an was flying, he looked at Lu Yizhan with a smile. Lu Yizhan behaved very obediently and well behaved, but the more he behaved like this, the more Xiaoping'an felt that this guy kept things in his heart and had not fully and truly treated him. Dead set. Lu Yushuan quickly finished the banana, pretending to be happy, and then suggested sincerely, Master, it's hard to find the spiritual crystals of the 2 world beads, but I already have some clues. After leaving Wolong Island, the master can find time to go to Tianlong Mountain. In a few days, Tianlong Mountain will have an auction conference for the spiritual crystals of the god-killing insect realm. The master can try his luck and collect some useful ones. It would be even better if we could meet the spiritual crystals corresponding to those 2 world beads. Oh, where is Tianlong Mountain? Just 150,000 miles southeast of the Immortal Sea. There are also many summoners gathered there. There are many scattered veins of spiritual crystals near Tianlong. We can often dig out weird spiritual crystals, so Tianlong Mountain has become an important distribution center for spiritual crystals that are closest to the Immortal Sea. Okay, I get it. I'll go take a look if I have time, Xiaoping'an said casually. Xiaoping'an fused Yang Hu's Tears Monument boundary bead yesterday. Not only was it a fusion of the boundary bead, it was also a breakthrough fusion. Xiaoping'an did all the things that Yang Hu did in history. In the Jiaopingling incident, Sima Yi killed Cao Shuang. Implicated, they were busy drawing a clear line with Xiaoheba's family, and many people even advised Xiaoping'an to divorce his wife. Xiaoping'an not only did not divorce his wife, but also treated Xiaoheba's relatives and family members with more courtesy and care. Yang Hu's mother and eldest brother Yang Fa died one after another, and Xiaoping'an remained in mourning and remained a vegetarian for more than 10 years. Sima Yan was proclaimed emperor by Zhen, and Xiaoping'an was promoted to the title of duke with a settlement of 3,000 households. Xiaoping'an was granted the title of duke and only received the title of marquis. As for the things that Yang Hu did after arriving in Jingzhou in history, such as opening schools, establishing education, appeasing the people, and cultivating fields to open up wasteland, Xiaoping'an followed the steps step by step and did not miss a single thing. In history, Yang Hu also did a lot of things to the Wu state. He became good friends with the Wu envoy Zhang Yan and fought against Lu Kang, the commander-in-chief of the Wu state and the Wu army. These deeds have become a good story. This is the story of the Jin state. The soldiers on the border caught the lost child of the general of Wu state while herding sheep. Xiaoping'an asked people to return the child to Wu state. Jin's army crossed the border and harvested the rice from farmers of Wu state to use as army rations. Xiaopinggan asked people to calculate the quantity. He used silk to repay the price of grain. Even if the prey shot by hunters from the Wu state came to the Jin state and was caught, Xiaopinggan also had people return it to the Wu state. When Lukang fell ill, Xiaopinggan personally sent someone to deliver medicine that could cure Lukang's illness. The surrendered soldiers of Wu wanted to leave, so Xiaopinggan generously let the soldiers of Wu leave and also gave them travel expenses. Lukang sent him good wine, and he drinks it from a large bowl as a messenger sent by Lukang. But on the other hand, Wu generals Chen Shang and Pan Jing invaded Jingzhou of the Jin state. Xiaopinggan personally led his troops and pursued them relentlessly. They hunted them to death and then buried them with generous gifts. The children of Chen Shang and Pan Jing came to welcome the funeral. Xiaopinggan returned him as a gift, and Wu general Deng Xiang invaded Xiaka. Xiaopinggan offered a reward for his capture alive. After he was captured, he was released, which made Deng Xiang burst into tears of gratitude, and finally led his subordinates to surrender. In this way, Xiaopinggan was respected as Yang Gong among the enemy troops. These are all Yang Hu's deeds, and Xiaopinggan has accomplished them all. Xiaopinggan also did what Yang Hu failed to do in history. Historically, when Yang Hu was young, there was a person who was good at reading the feng shui of tombs. He said that Yang Hu's ancestral tomb had the air of an emperor. If the tomb was dug open, heirs would be cut off. In history, Yang Hu didn't know what he was thinking, or because he was young and arrogant and didn't believe it, he actually dug open his ancestral tomb. Then the person who cared for the tomb saw the dug tomb and said, "Although your ancestral tomb is even though it was cut open, there will still be Sangong with a broken arm in your family later." Yang Hu broke his arm due to falling off his horse, and he became the third male without any heirs, leaving behind the historical illusion of Sangong with a broken arm. This time, Xiaopinggan did not dig his own ancestral tomb, but paid him a lot of money to see the tomb's feng shui. In the Battle of Xiling, Xiaopinggan and Lukang fought. This time Xiaopinggan did not lose, but tied with Lukang. Lukang finally captured Xiling city, but Xiaopinggan also protected the Buchan family and all fled Xiling. The city was surrendered to the state of Jin. In addition, Xiaopinggan also did one more thing, which was to kill Sun Tzu with his own hands and end this scourge. Sun Tzu is not a famous person in history, but if you look closely at what he did, from the perspective of the butterfly effect, this person is definitely China's eternal sinner, and he deserves death. The fuse of the Wu chaos in China was the Eight Kings Rebellion in the Western Jin dynasty, and the culprit of the Eight Kings Rebellion was Emperor Hui of Jin's wife Jia Nanfan. Jia Nanfan was ugly and poisonous, with a heart like a snake and a scorpion, and was stupid and arrogant. Emperor Hui of Jin, if she is cowardly and incompetent, she will be timid and afraid of getting into trouble. If she meets such a wife, she will live an extremely useless life. What many people don't know is that Sima Yan can be regarded as a man of great talent and strategy. Such an emperor accidentally found Jia Nanfan as his daughter-in-law, mainly because he was concealed and deceived by Sun Tzu. Sima Yan even had the intention of deposing the prince Sima Zhong. The idea was that Sun Tzu tried his best to prevent Sima Yan from deposing the prince. Because he found the wrong daughter-in-law, the tragedy that eventually destroyed the empire and caused a huge historical disaster to the entire China occurred in the Western Jin dynasty. The most critical figure hidden behind this was Sun Tzu. The motive behind the most tragic marriage in Chinese history directed by Sun Tzu was simply because Jia Nanfan's father, Jia Chong, was appointed to guard Chang'an. Mitsuru pushed him to the position of the prince's father-in-law. Xiaopinggan was not sure how much history could be changed by killing Sun Tzu, so he would just kill him anyway. Yang Hu in history died of illness at the age of 58, but Xiaopinggan in the World Pearl was still alive and kicking at the age of 58, strong in body and martial arts, and after Lukang's death, Xiaopinggan effortlessly captured the kingdom of Wu Jingzhou. Xiaopinggan didn't know how the situation would evolve in the future. When the Falling Tears Monument boundary pearl was finally shattered, it was Xiaopinggan who effortlessly captured Wu State's Jingzhou and then brought wine to pay homage to Lukang and sweep the tomb of Lukang. The boundary pearl was it shattered. The breakthrough fusion of the Falling Tears Monument boundary pearl directly increased the divine power in Xiaopinggan's secret mandala by 180 points. When Xiaopinggan left Sea Snake Island, his upper limit of divine power finally exceeded 8,000 points and reached 8,004 points. If history evolves in the direction that I changed in Jizu, I wonder if the tragedy of the final Wuhu chaos in China can be avoided. Or, can the Western Jin dynasty evolve into what Yang Hu finally told Sima Yan? The Western Jin dynasty easily destroyed Wu and unified the world without a fight, and then established culture and education. Can China usher in a prosperous age unprecedented in a century? Flying in the sky, Xiaopinggan's head was full of this question. No matter how he deduced, there would be countless possibilities. The direction of history, in many cases, is actually the butterfly effect caused by accidental events brought by some individuals. Determined, this is the most magical place in history. A few days later, Xiaopinggan came to Wolong Island again. The last time he came to Wolong Island, he came with true monarch sticks, but this time, Xiaopinggan came alone, with a monkey in a cage beside him. From a distance, Xiaopinggan could see the central mountain range undulating like a dragon on Wolong Island. Sea Snake Island and Wolong Island are not too far apart in the Immortal Sea. Master, I want you to take my token to Wanbao Hall, take out the token, and tell Wanbao Hall to take out the things on the token, and Wanbao Hall will hand over the G bead to the master. It's very easy. In addition to the world beads, I still have more than 60 million gold coins in Wanbaotang. Lu Yazan in the cage opened his eyes wide and spoke to Xiaopinggan with a sincere face. The electric light pulsed at Xiaopinggan's fingertips again, and the monkey in the cage screamed and went into shock again, with smoke all over his body. Xiaopinggan glanced at Lu Yazan in the cage and said, "Did I let you speak?" Lu Yazan said it very easily, but for some reason, the closer he got to Wolong Island, Xiaopinggan's heart became inexplicably nervous. This situation did not happen when he went to Sea Snake Island. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 515. As Xiaopinggan advanced to the intermediate pastoral level, his soul power increased sharply, and Xiaopinggan's sixth sense became more and more acute. This feeling was like some kind of powerful feeling of a beast living in the forest. Instinct can make those beasts become restless and alert when approaching the trap. The closer he got to Wolong Island, the more restless his instinct became. Xiaopinggan's blood surged and he felt inexplicably irritable. Wolong Island is on the sea level in front. It is only 300 or 400 miles away from Wolong Island, but Xiaopinggan has stopped in the air. In addition to the boundary beads that Lu Yazan said he placed in Wanbao Hall, there is also a huge danger hidden for him on Wolong Island. Does this danger come from Lu Yazan? Or, from other sources, or, both? Xiaopinggan doesn't know. But, you can give it a try, and eliminate it step by step. Xiaopinggan's heart moved. The cage was covered with black cloth. Lu Yazan, who was stunned by the electric shock, once again lost the ability to speak. He only felt that he was still being carried by Xiaopinggan and flew towards Wolong Island. Lu Yuqian's heart was beating wildly, but he became more and more silent in the cage and remained silent. After flying like this for more than an hour, Lu Yazan felt that Xiaopinggan had finally landed, and then he heard a familiar and exciting voice. "He who comes, stop here. This is the 10,000 Treasures Hall, no one can enter unless you are invited." "I came to Wanbaotang to get something," this was Xiaopinggan's voice. "You should know the rules of our Wanbao Hall. Our Wanbao Hall only accepts summoners above the transformation realm. Your aura is obscure and difficult to distinguish. If you want to enter the Wanbao Hall, please release your own aura realm." "Can't we enter even with this token?" I came here today on the order of the owner of this token to take away the things belonging to the owner of the token from Wanbao Hall. At the door of Wanbao Hall, Xiaopingan had already taken out Lu Ping an assigned piece of token. The man in black looked at the sign in Xiaopingan's hand and said, "You can enter, but what is in the cage in your hand? Please tear off the black cloth outside the cage for inspection. You cannot bring dangerous objects into Wanbao Hall." Lu Yazan heard these words in the cage, and then the black cloth covering the cage was torn away with a crash, and Lu Yazan saw the light of day again. Here, just outside the attic of Wolong Island Wanbaotang, there are all kinds of exotic flowers and plants around, with a strange fragrance. There is a pool in front of the attic. In the pool, two long-haired shawls with pink scales. The mermaid is still playing in the water and playing the piano. The 7-story Wanbao Hall is right in front of you. Outside of the Wanbao Hall, there are exquisite steps and handrails carved from white jade, which are impressive. At the door of the attic, there are several summoned warriors in armor holding swords to guard. The man in black with a solemn expression stopped in front of Xiaopingan, and Xiaopingan held his token in his hand. Lu Yazan couldn't speak or move. Xiaopingan looked at him with a warning look. The man in black who was guarding outside Wanbao Hall flashed his eyes and looked at Lu Yazan in the cage. It turns out to be a monkey. "Okay, you can go in." Xiaopingan entered Wanbaotang with Lu Yushuan and the cage, and the man in black followed them. As soon as he entered Wanbao Hall, a fat man with a smile walked out. "You take the things that the owner of the token keeps in Wanbao Tower?" The smiling fat man asked Xiaopingan directly. "Not bad," Xiaopingan nodded. "Okay, bring the token over and let me see." Xiaopingan handed over the token, and the fat man took it, looked at it, and nodded. "Yes, it is the transformation token issued by our Wanbao Tower. The owner of this token does have something in our Wanbao Tower." The fat man finished speaking, and then directly ordered the man in black, "Lin Dong, take this guest to Fenghua Hall and wait." "Please follow me." The man in black made an invitation gesture, and Xiaopingan followed the man in black upstairs and came to a living room to drink tea and wait. After waiting for less than 5 minutes, the fat man walked in with a smile on his face, holding a box in his hand, and sat down next to Xiaopingan. Xiaopingan opened the box. In the box was the boundary bead that Lu Yazan mentioned before. He nodded. "The owner of this token still has more than 60 million gold coins in Wanbaotang." "Where are those gold coins?" Xiaopingan asked. "I'm afraid I can't give you those gold coins," the fat man said with a smile. "Oh, why?" The fat man was still looking at Xiaopingan with a smile at this time, without any fireworks, because in addition to those gold coins, the owner of the token also left a letter to our Wanbaotang. The owner of the token said in the letter, "Anyone who brings his token to Wanbao Tower to pick up his things means that he is helpless and is in danger at any time. He asked us to help him take down the person who came to pick up his things. If we can save him come out, those gold coins and the world beads in this box are the reward for our Wanbaotang. At the same time, he will serve our Wanbaotang for 20 years. Therefore, in order to avoid hurting your kindness, this guest should be obedient." Then the owner of the token handed it over to us. "This business is also good business for us. Don't put our Wanbaotang in trouble. What does this guest officer think?" Xiaopingan's face changed drastically, and his whole body was about to rise into the sky. However, just as Xiaopingan was about to get up, he found that he was no longer in the room, but in a vast blue sky. The fat man was standing in the sky, with 3 horizontal lines on his head, forming a Qianghua. Exuding a terrifying aura, but still looking at Xiaopingan with a smile. There was like an invisible shackle in the endless void, which directly immobilized Xiaopingan, making Xiaopingan's body completely unable to move, and his whole face changed horribly. For a strong person in the 8 Sun realm, the struggle of a summoner in the 6 Yang realm can be completely ignored in the domain of a strong person in the 8 Yang realm. Xiaoping's body couldn't move, and Lu Yushuan in Xiaoping's cage couldn't move at all. He could only blink his eyes crazily in the cage, and screamed non-stop. He was so excited. Who are you? Where is the owner of that token now? Can you tell me? The fat man who controlled the domain looked at Xiaoping and still smiled, but his voice sounded like thunder in the void. If you don't tell me, I can only give you the secret method of Julian soul searching. The pain of Julian searching soul will grind a person to pieces. Even if it is something you have forgotten, we can do it, help you recollect and let you relieve everything you have experienced from your mother's womb to today. Moreover, after the 9 yin soul search, your secret mandala will also collapse, and you will be almost useless in the future. Lu Yazan, who was under control, turned pale. Lu Yazan was so excited in the cage that he winked and shouted, finally attracting the fat man's attention. As soon as the fat man had a thought, the cage was completely shattered. Lu Yazan in the cage felt that his body, hands, and feet could move again. Lu Yazan bit his finger directly, and wrote a few words in the air with his bloody finger to tell the shopkeeper, I am Lu Yazan, please save me. What, you are Lu Yazan? The fat man was also surprised when he saw the words traced by a monkey in the air with his bloody fingers. The monkey's bloody finger wrote something in the air. Although the word had no substance, even a master of the 8 Yang realm could tell it at a glance. Lu Yazan was chirping, but his hands kept moving, gesticulating, and writing in the air. I was plotted by this man, fell into his secret method, and turned into a monkey. He couldn't speak. He asked shopkeeper Du to find a way. Let him help me remove the secret technique from my body, and then give this person to me alive. As long as Wanbao Hall can do it, in addition to the gold coins I have in Wanbao Hall, I also have an account deposit of more than 300 million gold coins in Yuankai Bank in the Yuankai world. I also know 2 secret realms of the void that no one has ever entered. You can give it all to Wanbao Tang. Lu Yazan wrote a lot of words in one breath and looked at Xiaopingan with a strange look, as if he was already winning. You are so willing, the fat man laughed, there is more than one secret method of transformation. If you are really willing to spend such a huge amount of money, even putting your own coffin in it, I, Wanbao Tang, will definitely find a way to help you restore your human body. This man must be kept alive. If I don't shave him alive with my own hands, it will be difficult to eliminate the hatred in my heart. The smile on the fat man's face suddenly disappeared at this time. He looked at Lu Yazan and sighed suddenly. Xiaoping'an, who was imprisoned in the void, was suddenly able to move. He turned around, looked at Lu Yushuan, and sighed, I didn't expect that, I still underestimated you. When did you know that I was Xiaoping'an, peaceful? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 516. The dream twists, shatters, disappears. Lu Yazan woke up from his dream, opened his eyes, and found that he was not on Wolong Island, let alone Wanbao Tang, but had landed on the peak of an unknown desolate island, with blue sky and white clouds above his head and sea water below his feet. The waves are boundless, and Wolong Island further away has disappeared on the sea level, so pale that only a shadow is left. The distance between him and Wolong Island is not closer, but farther away. A sunset sets on the horizon, casting thousands of golden lights on the sea, which is sad yet magnificent. Xiaoping'an sat cross-legged next to him. The cage that contained Lu Yashao was no longer there. He was lying on the ground next to him, free again. Lu Yazan was shocked at first, and then calmed down completely. He glanced at Xiaoping'an and found that Xiaoping'an was looking at him calmly, his eyes were like lake water, calm, neither happy nor angry, which was completely different from before. Lu Yushuan turned over and got up, instead of running away, he sat next to Xiaopinggan. One person and one monkey are sitting on the top of the mountain, blowing the sea breeze. This scene has a unique poetic quality. Looking at the scene in front of him, a smile appeared at the corner of Lu Yizan's mouth. Lu Yizan first chuckled, and then laughed. The look on his face was no longer afraid, but rather like a burden had been lifted, like a long-lasting smile. It was like he breathed a long sigh of relief. Ha, ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha, life is like a dream, life is like a dream, Lu Yizan's dream of becoming a god has ended here today. It's not unfair, indeed it's not unfair, Lu Yizan looked at it with nostalgia. Looking at the scenery of the immortal sea in the setting sun, he took a deep breath and asked Xiaopingyan, your secret method even touched me again. It is so weird that it makes people fall into a dream without knowing it. I wonder what world pearl this secret technique is obtained from, and what is its name. This secret technique is called dreaming. It does not come from the world bead, but from the spirit world, Xiaopingyan said calmly. Spiritual world, no wonder, Lu Yizan smiled, his smile was free and easy, and the expression on his face was relieved. The demon lord spent so much effort to chase you, it seems that there is a reason that we don't know, he does have a big secret. I'm actually confused too, Xiaopingyan said calmly as if chatting with a friend, looking at the sea level in the distance. I just want to prevent the world where I live from being invaded by space. I want my friends and sisters, I want countless ordinary people to no longer live in fear, and have sincere laughter on their faces, and I want those children not to have to learn how to get into shelters from an early age. I like to watch those children were running freely and happily on the lawn, without any worries. I actually have the same pursuit as those of the Wanchen section. I don't know why the demon lord is so obsessed with me, a Skywalker, and must kill them quickly. You don't know either, Lu Yushuan turned around and asked. Yes, I don't know either. By the way, how do you know that I am Xiaopingyan's? Lu Yizan laughed, I didn't believe it at first. I thought everything you said before was true. However, one night, I suddenly thought of a question. What if what I firmly believe turns out to be wrong? It is impossible for others to vomit out the soul-stealing goo that has entered their stomachs, but what if Xiaopingyan has this ability? If Xiaopingyan is like ordinary people, why would the dominant demon be willing to spend so much effort and cost to kill him? Don't you agree? Not bad, Xiaopingyan nodded. As soon as this idea appeared in my mind, I couldn't get rid of it. I followed this idea and figured out a lot of things at once. The final conclusion I came to was that Kui Li, Zhang Tai, and you are actually just one person, Xiaopingyan. It was you who used the soul-stealing goo you spit out to lure me into a fight with the blood demon cult. Then you took advantage of my serious injury to trick me, and finally you wanted to subdue me and let me work for you. Of course, I am not 100% sure, only 70% sure. Xiaopingyan thought for a while and nodded. I underestimated the heroes of the world. I thought there was no flaw, but I didn't expect you to find out. Lu Yizan smiled and said, I can't blame you. Most people wouldn't think of it. It's just that for a person like me, I have seen all kinds of insidious and cunning people, experienced all kinds of scenes, and survived countless times to get where I am today. I have become cunning and cunning. I don't trust anyone except myself. I am thinking about becoming a god again. I will do whatever it takes to become a god. Therefore, I must seize the opportunity and give it a try. At worst, I will be proven wrong and I will have to start all over again. That is, as long as I live, I can earn back what I lost. Well, yes, as long as a person is alive, there is hope. But, is becoming a god really that important to you? Lu Yushuan looked into the distance and suddenly sighed, with a sad look on his face. My father is a policeman, a competent policeman, a good policeman. When I was a child, I actually wanted to be a policeman. That year, when my father went out on the street to check, he found the body of a recently deceased little girl and drugs in the trunk of a luxury car. My father caught the driver and took him to the police station and impounded the car. Reported the matter up, and guess what happened? What happened? Because my father didn't know that the owner of the luxury car was the mayor's son, and the driver who was detained by him was the mayor's son. That night, my father came home and was having dinner. A group of killers broke into our house, and they killed my father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, 2 sisters, and a 4-year-old brother, and then set a fire in my house. Lu Yazan spoke as if he was talking about someone else's affairs, and the expression on his face seemed to be reminiscing. That year, I was only 8 years old. The next day, the luxury car seized by my father disappeared from the police station. The little girl's body and the drugs were missing. The chief of the police said that my father had mental problems. He was depressed for a long time due to the pressure of work, and he also had violent tendencies. My father went home and killed a whole family and then committed suicide. In just 2 days, all the media reported that my father committed suicide due to mental illness. A psychiatrist said that my father often went to him for medical treatment. My father's colleagues also said in interviews that my father had mental problems. These people later they all got promoted and made a fortune. From that time I understood that there are actually only 2 kinds of people in this world. One kind of people think they are human beings, but in fact they are just ants that look like humans. There is also a kind of person who can decide the fate of ants. People, Lu Yuxuan turned to look at Xiaoping'an and asked seriously, I just don't want to be an ant anymore, is that wrong? That's right, Xiaoping'an nodded. I later killed all those people, a total of 17 families, 281 men and women. I didn't spare any of them. I captured them all, locked them in a dungeon, and tortured them for half a year before I was done. A chilling smile appeared on Yizhuan's face. I feel that it would be better for me to die in the hands of a person who can become a god than to die in the hands of an unknown person. At least it will be more glorious and more powerful than me. Lu Yazan, if your people are going to be sacrificed by others, it will make me look too incompetent. Remember, you must not be sacrificed by others, otherwise I won't be happy even if I'm a ghost. To be honest, I also want to try the taste of becoming a god. Only becoming a god can destroy the Tower of Darkness. Finally, I will give you a piece of advice. Leave the immortal sea as soon as possible. This immortal sea is becoming more and more dangerous to you. It is meaningless for you to stay here any longer. The last time I fought with the Blood Demon sect, those of the Blood Demon sect, as long as a person's brain is not broken, they will definitely guess that you are behind it, and your whereabouts have been exposed. All demigods are stronger than you think, and their methods are weird and unpredictable, and they are definitely above you. Okay, I know. After saying this, Lu Yuqian looked at the sunset on the sea with a calm expression and longing eyes, and murmured to himself, I didn't bother to look at it before, but now I realize that the sunset is actually quite beautiful. Xiaoping'an didn't speak, just sat quietly on the mountain peak, watching the magnificent sunset slowly sinking into the sea. When the last ray of the setting sun disappeared from the sea and the world was shrouded in darkness, a flame spewed out from the ground next to Xiaoping'an. The monkey sitting next to him, in the flames, turned into a blink of an eye. For fly ash. When the sea breeze blows from the sea, the fly ash dissipates in the sea breeze, as if it had never existed. Xiaoping'an stood up, soared into the air, and his figure instantly melted into the night. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 517. Earth, Paris, International Airport. In the drizzle, several gray-green anti-aircraft crawlers were parked on both sides of the airport's runway. The anti-aircraft crawlers were covered with gun jackets. But even so, looking through the gun jackets, the muzzles and missiles on the anti-aircraft crawlers could be seen. Still pointing straight into the sky, ready for battle at any time, which is still a huge deterrent to those aircraft preparing to land at the airport. Armed personnel carrying guns and wearing camouflage uniforms patrolled the airport. On the control tower of the airport, what was hung was no longer the French flag, but the flag of the Civil Alliance, one of the largest organizations in Paris. The current Paris airport is controlled by the Civic Alliance. At this moment, a wide-body jetliner with the logo of Great Yangguo National Airlines on its fuselage flew through the clouds from the southwest sky of the airport towards a runway. On the plane, the beautiful Fang Lingshan, with short hair, sunglasses, and aloofness, was sitting in a separate VIP cabin, looking through the window at the Paris airport and the city of Paris outside the plane. She has been to Paris several times for work, and several times for tourism. She is no stranger to these big cities in Europe, but this time she came, looking at Paris in the twilight. It was no longer the same. The lights looked bright, and there were only a handful of brightly lit places in the city. As if she was sleeping, she also felt that things were different. It used to be a good place here, but why did it become like this? These French guys really don't make people worry. Tupolu, who was sitting opposite Fang Lingshan, also muttered. Don't expect too much. The fact that France did not surrender during the last disaster is the greatest good news. Fang Lingshan said coldly. Well, that's because they still have shelters to infiltrate. Tupolu chuckled, revealing his heart-stopping titanium alloy teeth. In order to infiltrate shelters, they started fighting themselves, but the government, even the capital, was lost and it hasn't been taken back yet. It's such nonsense. Our Yan kingdom has almost recovered and almost all the monsters that invaded the space have been cleared away. The rest are in hiding. They are still wrangling. That's why, Devil's Eye, dare to transport nuclear materials here. Fang Lingshan said helplessly. As long as you don't let me cooperate with those Gallic chickens when I go on a mission, you can say anything. Working with those Gallic chickens can drive people to death. Remember the last mission in Luxembourg? At this moment, Tupolu, wearing a black leather trench coat, was still as strong as a mountain, with a horse on his arm and a human on his fist. His bald head was particularly conspicuous. Over 2 years, the aura on his body became more and more terrifying, and his whole body he was much stronger than before. As he spoke, he opened his mouth and swallowed all the beef burritos on the airplane meal in front of him. He chewed it twice and his throat slipped. In an instant, more than 500 grams of food magically disappeared into his mouth. From the moment he got on the plane, Tupolu had already eaten the plane meal for 5 people, but he didn't seem full yet. I'll get off the plane after I'm full. I don't know if I'll be able to eat enough when I get to Paris. Tupolu wiped his hands and squinted his eyes. I always feel that it is a bit strange that the headquarters transferred us from Yazoo to Europe to carry out this mission. Logically speaking, we do not need to come forward for this mission. The European branch, there are many people from the headquarters, the 5th and 4th divisions of the headquarters, and the Special Security Bureau. We have never followed up on this case before. Fang Lingshan just raised the teacup in front of her and took a sip of tea. You'll find out as soon as you get off the plane. The plane shook slightly and landed on the airport runway. It was taxiing at high speed. After a while, the plane stopped in front of a terminal building. The 2 people walked out of the VIP cabin and saw a beautiful woman in the VIP cabin next to them. The stewardess stood there with a slightly red face. The bastard Li Yunzhou was standing at the door of the VIP cabin, holding the hand of the beautiful stewardess, looking at the stewardess lovingly, like a deep and wealthy gentleman, and saying affectionate and disgusting words. Remember, I will call you when I come back. Hey, as a powerful summoner, it is actually very tiring. Flying around every day to save the world, but no matter how tired I am, meeting you makes me feel the world is worth saving. Compared with before, Li Yunzhou has a delicate and masculine beard around his lips, and he is dressed more elegantly. Of course, he seems to be more shameless. Fang Lingshan regarded Li Yunzhou as nothing, but Lao Tu laughed and patted Li Yunzhou on the shoulder. "Little Li, you are a good braggart. Remember to pay back the money you owed me for the last card game. Save yourself first." When Lao Tu interrupted, the beautiful stewardess quickly pulled away her hand and left. Li Yunzhou glared at Tupolu angrily. "Old Tuesday, what are you doing? I finally got her phone number. Pay back the money." Tupolu stretched out a big hand, which made Li Yunzhou's breath suddenly weaken. Li Yunzhou wanted to say something else, but he didn't say it because in the cabin behind, a middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s with slightly gray hair wearing a suit and a black windbreaker and old-school black-framed eyes had already left. When he came out, with a majestic glance, Li Yunzhou wisely shut his mouth, and even showed a flattering smile on his face. "Minister Yan." "Minister Yan." Fang Lingshan and Tupolu nodded slightly in greeting. This Minister Yan is the person in charge of their mission, and he is also a person from the headquarters. In terms of ability, qualifications, and position, he is much higher than them. Moreover, this Minister Yan has a relationship with them. This person, he was the old leader of young Master Mo Yan when he first joined the Order Committee. Director Mo was following this person in the beginning. From this relationship point of view, this Minister Yan is the boss of their boss. Mo Yan has to be obedient whenever he sees him. After getting off the plane, there were heavily armed personnel performing security tasks outside the plane. When she walked out of the somewhat empty terminal road, Fang Lingshan saw her sister Fang Lingqian and a few people waiting outside. When the two sisters met here, they didn't say much. They just nodded and said hello in a formal manner, and then the group got into several black business cars outside the airport. "Has the access channel for supplies from the airport to District 11 been opened?" Minister Yan asked Fang Lingqian directly while sitting in the car. After the Doomsday Gang and the Jackal Gang were destroyed, various factions in Paris have been reshuffled in the past few days. The material channel from the airport to the 11th arrondissement has been opened. After leaving the airport, you only need to pay 30% of the toll, and things can be transported to the 11th arrondissement. Area 1, Fang Lingqian replied. 20% at the airport and 30% on the road. This is acceptable. Subsequent supplies will be shipped one after another. Minister Yan nodded, with a serious look on his face. "You can contact Luoan. The headquarters has agreed. He was involved in our operation, and I have brought the World Pearl with me this time." The second update today is a little later. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 518. In the drizzle, several cars passed through the twilight city of Paris, and finally returned to the 11th arrondissement amidst the occasional gunshots. The Order Committee's stronghold in District 11 is located in a square office building not far from People's Square. Next to the office building is a Chinese wholesale market. The dark red exterior wall of the office building looks particularly plain. The top of the office building is covered with solar panels, so there is no problem with the power supply of the office building. Several armed security personnel are standing outside the office building. The car enters through the entrance of the underground parking lot. The parking lot gate closed automatically. Everyone should rest and recover tonight, familiarize yourself with the mission briefing, and start working tomorrow. Minister Yan said after getting out of the car, and Tupolu, Li Yunzhou and others returned to their respective dormitories. It was only at this time that the two sisters Fang Lingshan and Fang Lingqian met in Fang Lingqian's room. Tupolu, Li Yunzhou and others all knew that Fang Lingqian was Fang Lingshan's sister and a stronger woman than Fang Lingshan, so naturally they would not join in the fun. "This is that, Luoan." In the room, Fang Lingshan looked at the scene on the screen in her hand of Xiaoping and holding a turret and sweeping thousands of troops in the People's Square that day, and took a slight breath. Okay. Huge power, judging from the effect of the divine power infusion to cut down the body, at least the seventh element realm. The clothes are also pretty good. The video is a battlefield video shot by the Chinese organization in District 11. Although the distance is a bit far and it is dark, the picture is not very clear, but Luoan's figure holding the turret can be seen very clearly. The dull and continuous blasts of the turret in Luoan's hand, the shell casings thrown away, Luoan's firm steps, and the slight trembling fluctuations of the water shield around him all looked particularly strong amidst the constant explosions and flames. The scene only lasted for less than a minute. In not much time, Luoan entered the blind spot of the scene and could no longer be seen. Only the sound of fire and explosions could be heard. After a while, the scene switched to Luoan sweeping across the screen. The scene on the street afterwards. The entire street was littered with corpses of gangsters. Thousands of gangsters rushed into the street. Broken limbs and broken arms were everywhere, as if they had been bombed. Even Fang Lingshan had seen many scenes, but looking at such a scene, still trembling in his heart, he did it all alone. Well, yes, one person, in less than 10 minutes, wiped out thousands of people from the two major gangs in Paris. The summoners of the two major gangs were scared and ran away. The bosses of the two gangs, they were all killed. Sasha, the boss of the Doomsday Gang, was a complete brain-eating worm. He turned into ashes within a second of being in front of him. The name Roan has now made the entire Paris gang fearful. Many people even think that he is the most powerful summoner in Paris, and almost everyone is looking for him, trying to win him over. As Fang Lingqian spoke, she placed a glass of prepared blue cocktail in front of Fang Lingshan, while she sat lazily on the sofa next to her, crossed her legs, and rubbed her forehead tiredly. I didn't expect that the headquarters would transfer you here. I reported the situation to the headquarters before, because Luoan knows you, and I want the headquarters to follow your mission line to screen the relevant people who have been in contact with. I have carefully identified his sketch before. I am sure that I don't know Luoan, nor have I met Luoan. I have never met him during my previous missions. I don't know how he knows me. Yes, as long as I see such a master once, I will never forget it. Fang Lingshan held the wine glass and sat next to Fang Lingyu. She took a sip of wine and frowned slightly. The taste of this cocktail was wrong. A pair of sisters sit together, each one more beautiful than the other, each with his or her own style, which is really eye-catching. There's no agave syrup, let's make do. Everything is lacking in Paris now. Fang Lingqian seemed to have completely put down her work until this moment, and began to chat with Fang Lingshan as her sister. By the way, that big bald guy, I have always been inseparable from you. How are you doing? I don't think the bald man looks very good, but he should feel safe together. My parents have always wanted to have a grandson. Fang Lingshan rolled her eyes at Fang Lingqian and said, don't worry about my affairs. My parents want to have a grandson. Isn't this the responsibility of a sister? In order not to be forced to get married, you went to Europe and didn't come back for several years. You still have the nerve to talk to me. Really? Fang Lingqian smiled slightly, turned around to look at Fang Lingshan's explosive figure, suddenly stretched out her hand, gently pinched Fang Lingshan's chest, and sighed with envy. Why are you so big again? What are you eating? If you have children in the future, you can save a lot of money on milk powder by bringing your own bottles. My mother said, you can give birth better than me. Sister! Fang Lingshan shouted suddenly, her face turning red. On the night when a group of people came to Paris, a bunch of red balloons suddenly appeared on the top of the tallest iron tower in Paris. The next day, after the drizzle, Paris became sunny again. After getting up in the morning and exercising for an hour, she made a breakfast and finished it. As usual, Emily went to the small attic on the roof of the villa, picked up the telescope and looked in the direction of the iron tower. A string of red balloons floating at the highest point of the tower caught Emily's eyes instantly. Emily was excited. After looking twice and confirming, she immediately left the attic on the roof of the villa, came to the door of the basement shelter, picked up a hammer, and knocked on the shelter 7 times. The iron door outside made a dull sound clang on the ground. Xuanhuan had told her before retreating that if she found a red balloon floating on the tower, she could tell him in this way. As long as she knocked 7 times outside, he would know. Emily thought Xuanhuan would come out soon, but unexpectedly, there was no movement in the shelter for a long time. Until noon, Xuanhuan was not seen coming out of the shelter. In the afternoon, Emily couldn't help but knock on the iron door of the shelter 7 times with a hammer. Xuanhuan still didn't show up. Unconsciously, it was dark again, and just when Emily wanted to go to the shelter to knock a few more times, Batu, the shepherd dog that Emily kept in the villa, suddenly started barking. Batu is very well behaved and will never bark randomly under normal circumstances. Batu's barks are getting louder and louder. Emily was startled and immediately ran to the villa's access control monitor to take a look. The monitor was covered in snowflakes and the camera outside the door had been destroyed. Emily ran to the window of the villa and looked out. It was pitch dark outside the villa, but you could still see a few dark figures sneaking over the wall from outside the villa and jumping into the yard. Looking at the figure, there were about 5 or 6 people. "I'm being targeted." Emily picked up the silent whistle in her pocket and blew it. The sound of the whistle was inaudible to human ears, but Batu could hear it. Sure enough, as soon as the whistle blew, Batu's scream stopped. The well-trained Batu got out of the hole in the wall of the kennel in the yard outside, ran outside the villa, and called the police and find the community security patrol. A dog ran away. A dark voice whispered from the yard outside. "No matter, go in first. There is only one woman living in this villa. There must be something good. Let's move quickly. The window is too small, I can't get in. Damn, try if you can open the door." Black shadows flashed in the yard outside, and someone cursed. Several people who entered the yard began to fumble around the door and windows. You could see that 2 people had pistols in their hands, and another person. One has a dagger in his hand, one has a fire axe in his hand. Emily already had the shotgun in her hand, gritted her teeth, and came to a hidden shooting hole in front of the door, about to shoot it for those outside. The hand that had always been warm suddenly pressed on Emily's shoulder, and also held down the shotgun in her hand. Emily turned around and was suddenly surprised. "Teacher, you're out." Seeing Xuanhuan, Emily's hanging heart suddenly relaxed, and she felt as if she had found support. Xuanhuan stood behind Emily with a smile on his face. "Just remember to knock once next time." "I know, but sometimes when you are in retreat, you can't come out right away." Emily nodded. "Those people outside? This is a sparring partner given to you by God. It is very suitable for your current situation. Don't waste it. Let me see what you are capable of," Xuanhuan said with a smile. He long appeared outside without seeing how he was doing. Those gangsters didn't expect that another dog would come out of the darkness. The black dragon was as fast as lightning and bit the wrist of a gangster holding a gun. The gangster screamed and the gun in his hand suddenly exploded. It fell to the ground, and the other man holding the gun next to him did not react. The black dragon then pounced on him and bit his hand holding the gun. In the darkness, the gangster panicked and was torn to the ground by the black dragon. The gun fell to the ground, and the gangster whose hand was bitten by the black dragon was about to bend down to pick it up, when he saw the door of the villa suddenly opened. Like a tiger coming out of its cage, Emily rushed out with a single stride, and hit the gangster's face with a knee. In the heartbreaking click sound, the gangster's face suddenly fell flat, and his whole body blood spurted out wildly, and he was kicked by Emily's knee and his body flew back 2 meters and fell to the ground. The close combat technique that Xuanhuan taught Emily was the 7 tiger styles that he had learned before. Although Emily was a woman, under the influence of the strengthening pill, she could perform these 7 tiger styles with a certain swagger. It has a sharp taste and is very powerful. After knocking down a gangster with one blow, Emily's confidence was boosted. These gangsters who usually terrify her, for some reason, feel just like that at this moment, so ordinary, and they don't seem so scary anymore. After knocking down a gangster, Emily quickly rushed to the side of the gangster who was being torn apart by the black dragon. With one step, she crushed the gangster's hand. Then, she kicked the gangster unconscious with a kick to the head. And then kicked the gun that fell on the ground to the corner, neatly. The other two gangsters rushed over, holding daggers and axes in their hands to greet Emily. Facing a gangster with a knife for the first time, Emily panicked slightly and took 2 steps back. But at this moment, Xiaoping's calm voice appeared in her ears: "Side step, 6th position." Emily instinctively stepped to the side, avoiding the attack of the axe. Then she used the 6th position, using her palm as a knife, and cut directly on the temple of the gangster. The gangster groaned. His head shook violently, and he fainted directly. The 6th posture is actually the dragon crouching and tiger squatting posture in Xiaoping's 7 tiger postures. It integrates offense and defense and is full of changes. Although there are no weapons in the hands, fists and palms can also be used because Emily is French. It was a bit troublesome to translate the names of the moves such as tiger roaring in the mountain forest, fighting for the tiger, crouching and crouching, so when Xiaoping taught it, he directly used simple names such as the 1st to 7th moves instead. After knocking down a fierce gangster again, Emily was not so flustered. The gangster holding the dagger continued to stab Emily with the dagger, but Emily didn't panic, grabbed the gangster's hand, twisted it, and broke the gangster's wrist with a click, and then he threw the gangster hard on his back and hit him on the ground, then kicked him in the head and knocked him unconscious again. Looking at the 4 gangsters who were knocked to the ground by her in the blink of an eye, Emily could hardly believe that this was her own achievement. There was a sentry outside the villa. Hearing the screams and groans coming from the villa, he was so frightened that he ran away. "The patrol is coming soon. Just hand these people over to the patrol. I have to leave for a while." Xiaoping's voice appeared in Emily's ears again. Emily turned around and looked around and found that Xiaoping had disappeared. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 519. Standing more than 2,000 meters in the sky in Paris, watching this huge city crawling at his feet, Xiaoping had a unique feeling. If you ignore the gunshots that ring out from time to time in the city, looking at it from this perspective, Paris at night is brightly lit, without the bustling traffic and the feasting nightlife. Most people living in the city look like returning home. Like birds, they return to their homes. The Seine River meanders, especially quiet, and the string of red balloons on the top of the Eiffel Tower in the distance is also particularly conspicuous. The red balloon was an agreement between Xiaoping and Fang Lingqian. If the Order Committee wanted to invite foreign aid or needed help from itself, it would hang a red balloon on the tower. Of course, in order not to scare those who like to look at the sky with astronomical telescopes at night, such as overly curious girls like Emily, Xiaoping, who was standing in the sky, used illusion magic to become invisible. Didn't reveal his figure. It's a big secret that you can fly by yourself. At least that's how it is on Earth. As far as Xiaoping knew, no matter how many world beads were fused to the summoners on the Earth, because there was no divine spring, no summoner had the ability to fly. He was the only summoner on the Earth who could fly at the moment. Boom! Just as Xiaoping was sizing up the city of Paris, the roar of aircraft engines came from the sky. A huge passenger plane passed over Xiaoping a few hundred meters above Xiaoping's head and flew towards the Paris airport. Naturally, the pilot of the passenger plane did not notice the person standing in the sky at this moment. If I were wearing a pair of red underwear and wearing underwear outside, Would it scare people if I flew out like this? Xiaopinggan laughed, looked in the direction of District 11, and disappeared in a flash. Just a moment later, Xiaopinggan's figure appeared in the sky above District 11. Xiaopinggan just scanned the sky and saw a bunch of red balloons hanging on the roof of a square office building near the People's Square in District 11. It should be here. When Xiaopinggan's figure appeared on the street outside the Order Committee's stronghold in District 11 and slowly walked towards it, he immediately attracted the attention of several armed security personnel outside the stronghold. Xiaopinggan just released a little bit of his own aura, causing his divine power to fluctuate, letting the other party know that he was already here. Before the security personnel approached, Fang Lingyu's figure suddenly flew out of a window of the office building like a shadow and landed directly in front of Xiaopinggan. Today, Fang Lingqian is wearing black leather pants, a black t-shirt and a windbreaker, which is particularly stylish. Seeing Xiaopinggan, Fang Lingqian's eyes flashed and she let out a long breath in her heart. If this man didn't show up today, Minister Yan would probably doubt whether her previous agreement with this man was reliable. Luoan, you're here. Well, I'm in retreat these days, and I just saw the balloons you hung out, Xiaopinggan smiled. Of course, the retreat is not a retreat, but before he comes here, he wants to find a place to settle down so that he can feel at ease. Let's go in and talk. Okay, Xiaopinggan looked at the building in front of him. Is this the stronghold of the Order Committee in Paris? That's right, we have more than one stronghold. Fang Lingyu waved her hand and told the security guards who were approaching to leave. She took Xiaopinggan directly towards the building. After just a few steps, Xiaopinggan felt that someone in the building seemed to be peering at him from the window. He looked up and saw a familiar figure, Fang Lingshan, standing behind a window in the building. Why did Fang Lingshan come to Paris? Fang Lingshan looked at herself intently. His and Fang Lingshan's eyes crossed in the air. Xiaopinggan smiled slightly. Fang Lingshan frowned slightly, with a trace of confusion on her face. Then, Tupolu's figure also appeared behind Fang Lingshan, lowering his head and looking at the building he was facing. Xiaopinggan walked over, and there was a guy next to him, who turned out to be Li Yunzhe. What a coincidence! Xiaopinggan's heart was shocked, but he remained calm on the surface, but the different emotion of meeting old friends again stirred in his heart. In the room, Fang Lingshan turned around, lowered the curtains, and glanced at Tupolu. I'm sure now, have you never seen this person before? It's strange, how does this guy know you? Tupolu touched his bald head. This guy doesn't look very strong, he is really that powerful. Shan, tell me, did that guy see your photo somewhere, and then he fell in love with you and couldn't help but have a crush on you? Li Yunzhe said smartly next to him, with a wretched look on his face. Hey, there are some perverted guys are like this. They can do many terrible things just by looking at a photo. You should be careful not to lose those stockings and clothes you carry with you recently. Roll. You should be able to formally get to know him in a while. When he arrived at the building, Xiaopinggan saw a middle-aged man wearing glasses, with a serious face and slightly gray hair walking towards him. The aura of this middle-aged man is very strong, at least in the 6 UN realm. This is Minister Yan, who came from the Order Committee in Dian. He is also the top person in charge of the Order Committee in Paris. Fang Lingqian introduced Xiaopinggan and Minister Yan to each other. Minister Yan, this is Luoan. Hello, Mr. Luoan, you can call me Yan Qing. Minister Yan stretched out his hand and shook Xiaopinggan's hand firmly. Thank you very much for Mr. Luo's help in what happened in District 11 last time. Feeling the surging divine power in Minister Yan's hand, Xiaopinggan smiled slightly, and with a slight movement, he forced Minister Yan's divine power back, swept it back, and then withdrew at the touch of a button. You're welcome, Minister Yan. Minister Yan has just finally determined one thing. This Luoan should be a summoner in the 7 Sun realm. The tide of divine power in his body is a bit stronger than his own. He cannot be a fake. and through careful and meticulous observation, it was discovered that this Luoan was not someone else in disguise. With this understanding, Minister Yan was a little more polite to Xiaopinggan. After the two sides exchanged a few words, the three of them came to a small conference room, closed the door, sat on both sides of the conference table, and began to have formal contact. To be honest, we have paid attention to Mr. Luoan since the last time he showed his talents in District 11. This attention is not malicious, it is just a pure intelligence sorting, and it is also one of the daily tasks of our order committee. It makes us feel the strange thing is that we found that Mr. Luoan did not seem to be a summoner before, nor did he show extraordinary abilities. Why did Mr. Luoan advance to become a summoner in just a few years? I am personally very curious about this question. Can Mr. N disclose it conveniently? Minister Yan's expression was very serious when he spoke, and his meticulous and serious look would put an inexplicable pressure on people. Xiaopinggan also had a serious look on his face and sighed, "It's hard to say what happens to people. Before I came to France, I just wanted to be a painter. I didn't expect that I would become a summoner one day. But people's fate is like this. I became what happened to the summoner sounds unbelievable, but it is true. That year, I went to the Alps to take photos. While climbing, I accidentally slipped and fell off the cliff. I thought I was finished, but I didn't expect that when I woke up, but found myself in a cave. There was an old man with a weird temper in the cave. That old man taught me a lot, and my destiny changed accordingly. I quietly became a summoner." Minister Yan was listening carefully, his face was motionless, there were not many other expressions, and he seemed to be very focused. However, Fang Lingyu had a strange look on his face after hearing this, and almost couldn't help but roll his eyes at Xiaopinggan. "How thick-skinned are you? You actually copied the story The Adventures of a Boy Who Falls Off a Cliff to yourself. Do you think others are fools? Mr. Luoan's experience is really enviable." Minister Yan, who was listening carefully, suddenly laughed, with a bunch of fine crow's feet piled up at the corners of his eyes. Then Minister Yan suddenly stretched out his hand, put something on the table, and handed it to in front of Xiaopinggan. "This thing should belong to Mr. Luo. Now it can be regarded as returned to its original owner." Xiaopinggan took a look and saw that the thing that Minister Yan handed over was the silver pendant that he gave to the hotel owner when he stayed at the small hotel. There was also a photo of Olivia in the pendant. Well, he exchanged it for this thing. His first meal back on Earth. The fact that Minister Yan could hand him this necklace meant that his previous experiences in the inn had been thoroughly investigated. I have to say that the efficiency of this order committee is really high. Xiaopinggan looked at the pendant, smiled slightly, shook his head, and then said with emotion, "The old man is right. The most difficult thing to refine one's heart in the mortal world is the word refining. What is refining? Is to burn the heart in the furnace to get rid of the bad and keep the good. You have to go through pain, suffering, love, hate, and hatred, and still be able to restrain your animal nature and greed, wash away the distracting thoughts in your heart, and see your true nature clearly. This is called refining. Even if you look at what you have been when the woman you like falls into the arms of others, she can also stick to her own heart, know where to use her power, seize things that do not belong to her without using the power of a summoner, abide by her duty, and dare to face the most ordinary and humble person. Myself, this is the real training of the heart. I'm very happy that I did it." Xiaopinggan's tone and expression were like a wise man and philosopher who had gone through many vicissitudes of life, with a hint of transcendent freedom and ease. "Although I have lost something, I also understand who I am better. I have found my true self and understood myself. Where should I use my strength and ability? If I fail to pass this level, I will now be just an ordinary person conquered by extraordinary power. This is not about controlling power, but being controlled by power. Thank you, Minister Yan, for still helping me. I found this necklace from a small hotel, but this pendant has no meaning to me now, it just represents my past. Seeing Xiaoping's expression, Fang Lingqian suddenly felt a little unconfident. Is it true that this guy's previous adventures of youth really failed? There really is some expert advice. Golden Summoner. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 520. No matter what Fang Lingqian thought, Minister Yan seemed to believe it, or he didn't intend to go further on this issue, but quickly moved to important topics. I heard that when Mr. Luoan rescued District 11 last time, he discovered that Sasha, the leader of the Doomsday Gang, was a member of the Devil's Eye, so Mr. Luoan did not hesitate and killed Sasha directly. Mr. Luoan, aren't you afraid of offending the Devil's Eye? The Eye of the Devil is the public enemy of mankind. If you offend it, it doesn't matter, Xiaoping'an said directly. Minister Yan nodded, very satisfied with Xiaoping'an's performance. Mr. Luoan is indeed an extraordinary person. To be honest, the Order Committee sent me to Paris this time for a very important task. This task it is related to the Devil's Eye, and Mr. Luoan is very powerful and has a clear stance on the Devil's Eye. Therefore, we invited Mr. Luoan here this time because we want Mr. Luoan to join this mission as a foreign aid. I don't know about Mr. Luoan. How about? Ha ha ha, the Order Committee has a big business, so they don't want to hire me to work in vain. Jizu, you don't understand the truth. Mr. Luoan, please rest assured that our Order Committee will not be so stingy. If you want to hire a master like Mr. Luoan, you will naturally be able to pay the corresponding price. I would like to formally confirm that Mr. Luoan's has your cultivation level reached the 7 UN realm. Xiaoping'an nodded seriously, yes, my cultivation has reached the 7 UN realm. In fact, Xiaoping'an's current cultivation level is not only at the 7 UN realm, but already at the 38 UN realm. The 7 UN realm is less than 1/5 of his strength. If he really tells it, it can scare these few people in front of him. Shocked, doubtful about life. Xiaoping'an just feels that the 7 elements realm is strong enough for most summoners in this world, but it is not so eye-catching and leaves a lot of room for himself. It is more convenient. This realm is to pretend to be a pig. Ideal for eating tigers. If Mr. Luoan is willing to join us and participate in this mission, the price we can offer Mr. Luoan is to provide Mr. Luoan with a rare world bead every 2 weeks. If this mission is successfully completed, we will also reward Mr. Luoan with 3 world beads at a time. A world pearl for half a month. 2 pills a month. Xiaoping'an knew that this price was high enough for the Order Committee. When he first joined the Order Committee, generally, if a summoner who had just joined the Order Committee followed the steps and made no special contributions and did not work hard after building the foundation, he could survive in 1 year. A boundary bead would be good. This condition made Xiaoping'an very excited. He knew that he had come to the right place to create a clone on Earth this time. So, after pretending to think about it, Xiaoping'an said directly, I can accept this condition, but I have already fused it before I have passed through many world beads. If the world beads you provide are ones I have fused, I have the right to let you replace them. No problem. What we provide are relatively rare and rare world beads. However, we do not guarantee whether the world beads we provide Mr. Luoan can fuse. At the same time, we hope that Mr. Luoan will not fuse the world beads we provide during the mission. Beads, because those world beads may be very dangerous. If something happens to Mr. Luoan's fusion of the world beads, it may affect the completion of the mission. Minister Yan naturally has his reasons to worry. If the Order Committee gives Luoan the boundary pearl, and Luoan's head explodes or has an accident when fusing the boundary pearl, wouldn't it mean that the Order Committee loses his wife and troops, so this matter must be say it beforehand. Xiaoping'an smiled secretly, with a serious look on his face, no problem, I have to prepare for the fusion of the boundary pearl for a long time, it's not that fast. In that case, then welcome Mr. Luoan to join our team, Minister Yan also laughed and breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. Xiaoping's cheerfulness on the issue of boundary beads was a bit beyond his expectation, because many people like Xiaoping were experts, and experts of Ping An's level often specify special world beads provided by the Order Committee before they can discuss cooperation. Those special world beads may be very popular, and the Order Committee does not have many stocks. For people like Luoan in front of him, as long as they are rare world beads, regardless of the success rate of fusion, it is easy to handle. The two looked at each other, both laughed, and felt that they had taken a big advantage, and they were both in a good mood. I wonder what this mission is like. Ling Qian, you and Mr. Luoan introduce our mission this time, Minister Yan said directly to Fang Lingqian. Okay, Fang Lingqian cheered up, directly controlled the electronic display in the conference room, presented some task information in front of Xiaoping, and began to introduce it to Xiaoping. Mr. Luo, we are in Paris this time. The mission is related to nuclear fuel. According to our intelligence, Devil's Eye smuggled a batch of weapons-grade plutonium raw materials to Paris. The amount of these plutonium raw materials is about 60 to 90 kilograms. If used to make nuclear bombs, it can make 4 to 6 nuclear bombs. May cause huge harm to various countries, so the success or failure of our mission may determine the fate of many people. 60 to 90 kilograms of weapons-grade plutonium raw material, Xiaoping also frowned slightly. For nuclear weapons, this is no longer a small amount. This is only part of the data we have. In fact, the amount of nuclear raw materials held by the Devil's Eye may exceed this number, Fang Lingyu nodded. Looking at the information that appeared on the electronic display in the conference room and listening to Fang Lingqian's explanation, Xiaoping finally understood why the Order Committee paid such a high price to include him in the task force. If he was killed by the Devil, if the nuclear fuel is turned into a nuclear bomb and then transported to the territory of Great Yan, and then found to be detonated in an important city, the consequences will be catastrophic. So now, while the Great Yan Kingdom is on tight defense, it has dispatched several capable teams to follow up on this matter. From the smuggling, transportation and processing of the nuclear fuel in the Devil's Eye, there are teams responsible for tracking every step. It must be to nip the Evil Eye's plot in the cradle. The team in Paris is just one part of it. This task is indeed difficult, and the nuclear fuel disappeared after being smuggled to Paris. Sasha and the Doomsday Gang, who were killed by him before, may have been involved. Fang Lingqian did dig up some useful information from the Doomsday Gang. Clues, but the disappearance of some key figures has brought this mission to a standstill. At the same time, the Order Committee has circled several places in Paris where nuclear fuel may be hidden. Entering and searching those places requires strong force to back them up, which is very dangerous. Okay, I understand, Xiaoping nodded, looked at Minister Yan, and said directly, can I pay the Jizu remuneration in the next 2 weeks in advance? I will feel at ease only after seeing the Jizu. Minister Yan glanced at Xiaoping and nodded, okay. As he spoke, he moved his hand, and a vermilion brocade box appeared in his hand, and he pushed it in front of Xiaoping. To express our sincerity, this first world bead is a rare black box world bead, and the mortality rate if the fusion fails is unknown. Xiaoping opened the box and took a look. Inside the brocade box was a world bead that was flashing with brilliance. There were 2 words on the world bead, which was a person's name, Kui Hao. This world bead is indeed rare. Xiaoping has never seen it before. But Kui Hao? Xiaoping thought about it in his mind and immediately remembered a powerful person. Xiaoping nodded and put the G-Pearl away with satisfaction.